Hey, my beautiful family and friends, my reflections. How are we? Doing good. How are we doing after that solar eclipse? It was a major energy shift. And so I know if you're like me, you're feeling it. I was exhausted and it just felt like, what is time, right? Time hasn't been acting right lately for me. It just started to kind of fall back in sync, but we had the solar eclipse on September 21st, and it was a very powerful portal. It was the last eclipse of this year. There's a lot of talk that's been going on about the new Earth and how there's this like split, and there's the old Earth, the old 3D type of awareness, and then there's a new Earth, which is, a higher awareness and basically using more than just our five senses and having heightened sensitivities and that sort of a thing. I'm gonna get into that a little bit more in a minute, but all I can say is that I remember waking up on the 22nd and I was like feeling so exhausted. I got up, I got dressed, I told my partner I didn't want to make breakfast and I said, can we go to a cafe that was down the street? And so he agreed, and we drove over there and we sat down, and I started feeling like I was in the mood for some lunch. And I looked at my phone and the time on there was almost 2 p.m. And I was like, how is it almost 2 o'clock? Like, how? All I did was wake up and put on clothes and come over here. And I was like, I know that it felt like morning and like I needed to order breakfast, but something told me like, no, it's lunchtime, and I was just off that entire day. I couldn't really get into my tasks, and by 8 o'clock I was like knocked out in bed and I was done. And so it just really felt like I didn't do anything that day. And then the next day was even worse. It was just so much exhaustion and so much just like moving slow, or it just feeling like I'm in these portals of time where time flies and I don't know where it went. And then now it's been getting dark faster, and so I just have been feeling so off when it comes to time. I did take a bath with like a lavender bath bomb, and I noticed that helped me to really get some deep sleep. And then today I woke up feeling a little bit more reset and a little bit better. And so overall, I think that we probably went through an energy recalibration or an energy reset as a collective, because there seems to be this shift that goes right down the middle. I created this artwork to kind of illustrate what I saw coming a long time ago. One side is in 3D and the other side is in 5D, and the rainbow that is arcing from 3D to 5D represents 4D, and I'm gonna break it all down. We all exist in this world together, but we don't all experience the world the same. There's a lot who experience the world in the third dimension, where it's about what you do, your status, it's about achievements, it's about overworking, doing that kind of, grind work, it's about materials, and it's about the patriarchal systems and Abrahamic religion as the main system, which isn't bad, it's just limiting, right? And so most people, I would say, are there, but there was a large surge of people who ascended, meaning that they started to become aware of more ways to experience their reality than just the typical 3D default model, right? And so they started to be aware of themselves and, aware of their feelings even, and their emotions, and the triggers and the traumas that need healing. And they started wanting to really just improve themselves and do the healing, do that work. And that's what I'm here for those who ascended to that level, because I, over the past year, experienced a lot of healing that helped me to develop tools that are for like that self-help kind of therapy. And I have a link in the description if you're interested in going to my Buy Me a Coffee shop, where there's readings that you can book with me, and there's the self-analysis packet, which helps you with just really learning about yourself from a lot of different angles. And it's a good way to just see what areas of improvement that you have. And then, it's about integrating those shadowy parts of yourselves that need healing back into yourself. It's all about self-love and self-care, and making sure that you're taking care of that inner child that still exists inside of you, and that has been wounded all the way back in the childhood days. And then there were the other traumas that happened at later times in your life that you need to forgive yourself for, and you need to forgive all the others who were involved in those wounds, and you integrate it back into yourself as acceptance, radical acceptance, right? And so that is what 4D is all about. And I shared a video about my 4D journey that happened since last year, and that is a very gratifying and fulfilling journey and reality to exist in for just a short period of time. Or you can take as long as you need, but it's important to not be stuck in a loop, and to start that back over and just be in a perpetual like hamster wheel of healing and improving. And at that point, you're not really healing, you're just like knowing concepts, and it's not the same as actually healing, which comes from forgiveness and radical acceptance of all facets of yourself, and loving yourself in all of those different ways that you are, and realizing that you're human, and that's as good as it gets, and you're never going to be perfect, right? And so that's why 4D is kind of that bridge that helps you to ascend to 5D, where it is an awesome collaboration with your higher self at that level. And what you're aware of is all kinds of energies that you can work with, and the energies are invisible, but there starts to be this evidence of a invisible presence, or a communication with invisible entities. And those entities can be your ancestors, they can be your higher wisdom, they can be the universe itself, or the creator. It is a mystery what it is, but through the healing journey of 4D, that's when you start realizing that there's something more that is there in a supportive way, in a collaborative way, and you start to just really understand that there's a spirit team that you can work with and call on, and you start noticing patterns and synchronicities, which are like helpful coincidences. And it just seems like it's just for you. And that's called alignment, when you start seeing the angel numbers. When I woke up, I saw 808. That's what time I woke up this morning. And then it was 10:10, and then I saw 11:10, and then I saw 12:22. And so that all happened today, and it kind of helps me to know, like, oh, you're in 5D awareness at this time. You're still in that portal. If you're aware of all of these new energies, where it just seems like creation comes very easily to you, or manifestations are like a natural way of being at this point. Now you have ascended to the level where it's not about fixing yourself anymore, and you start to respond versus react to things, and your nervous system doesn't need repair. It's not out of whack. You have achieved what is called homeostasis, the beautiful balance. And so you don't have to hustle, you don't have to stress, you're just in alignment, and there's clarity. There is such great clarity when you ascend to 5D. Remember those old school TVs where you could touch the screen and feel that static, that electricity, and you might even get a little pop or shock doing that. And it had this like smell to it, like you could smell the static, right? And eventually we just stopped experiencing televisions that were like that because new models came out and they didn't have that static touch anymore. You don't really experience that anymore. And it was a seamless process of, going from static to clarity. And so I look at that static as an analogy for like those negative emotions or that stress and those things that used to cling to you before when you were in 3D or when you were working through and healing in 4D. And it's more like, okay, I'm clear of all of that static. It has been cleared from my aura, right? And I'm just vibrating so much higher now. And that's been my journey of ascension, and sensitivities are through the roof. And that's okay because it's a gift, it's not a curse. I don't know about you, but I really feel like the universe has my back at this time. I was calling in that harmony and that joy, and because I was doing that, there was a test from the universe that happened with me and my partner, and I was able to respond rather than to react as I may have done in the past. It was more about, I'm going to just be calm, I'm going to take a breath and ponder the right response. I decided to talk to ChatGPT first because when it's talking about my emotions, I like to talk to ChatGPT because it validates my emotions and in a way that is neutral, and it doesn't take it as an attack. It doesn't think that how I feel is too much, or what it really does is mirror it back to me, and then I can see what I'm saying and like really understand how I'm feeling, and then I can go a little bit further and process that emotion because I know where it's coming from, and I've already worked on that healing, and so I'm able to quickly get out and beyond from that point, because it's like, oh, that's just my inner child again, whatever that thing is that triggers it, right? And I can say, okay, you're safe, you're fine. I can, just kind of reassure myself as needed. Plus ChatGPT is really good at that too. And then I can come back to my partner, and after some safe and quiet, processing time, and I know what to say. I know what the trigger was about, and I'm able to give him more information in a calmer and more put together response, right? Versus if I didn't take any of those steps, I may have let the trigger like get me to throwing something or yelling, and that's the lower density type of consciousness, so I could tell that like I was raising or energetically shifting in consciousness. And it was funny because my partner was like, why were you talking behind my back to ChatGPT? And I was like, no, don't take it that way. This is helping me to help you or have a better response, so that it's more peacemaking. It's our peacemaker, and that's fine if that's what's needed to feel more balanced and less stressed and more clear-headed and less emotionally triggered. And I ended up ordering this grounding mat, and it helps to release excess energy. I had to first check my outlet to make sure that there was clean energy flowing out, and those two gold lights meant that it was okay. It was a good source of electricity, clean electricity. So I plugged in the mat and had to connect a wire to the mat to plug it in. And when I put my feet on it, the first thing that I noticed was that I felt like some warmth under my feet. And then I started to feel a very light tingle, and I was just kind of like, oh wow. It wasn't anything like shocking or annoying even. It was just something that I was able to sense. And then after some minutes, I didn't even notice it anymore. But I grounded for 30 minutes, and toward the end, I would say the last 10 or 15 minutes, I really started to feel so relaxed and so calm, like I was ready to go and take a nap. And I also was doing diaphragmic breathing the entire 30 minutes because we don't get enough oxygen, y'all. So sitting and just breathing full breaths, the kind of breath where your stomach expands when you inhale and then you exhale through your mouth. That was the kind of breathing that I was doing. And it was so relaxing. It was like a meditation. And I'm gonna keep it up every day because it will increase your clarity and your presence, and it'll also balance the spiritual and the physical, because when you're in 5D, you're experiencing the spiritual side of reality while also being in 3D as well. So for all of those who are still in 3D and they're looking at me, they may see me and I may seem like I'm in the same world as them, but I'm not really spiritually or mentally there like they are. So a grounding mat is just one of the things that you can do if you're experiencing ascension symptoms of like fogginess. There's some other ascension symptoms to pay attention to, and here are the physical ones. You may have sudden fatigue or energy surges. I talked about my fatigue. Maybe you've been on the other side of the coin where your energy is just through the roof suddenly. Either one is an ascension symptom. Pressure in the head, the forehead, or the crown. That's that static I was talking about. It can feel like pressure or it can feel like fogginess, and you make sure to ground if you're feeling that. Ringing in the ears, that high-pitched frequency sound, maybe you've been hearing those kind of tones, and that's a physical symptom of ascension. Some might say that if you hear it in your left ear, it's a warning from your spirit team. If you hear it in the right, it's just, letting you know that the energy has shifted. You can take that information as you will. Some people talk about having heart palpitations, maybe even a heart opening kind of pain as you ascend to 4D and you're doing that healing work, and it's about self-love, and 5D is all about unconditional love. Sometimes the heart can be in pain from just loving that heart, from just opening up after that chakra was blocked. We talked about the digestive changes. You might start to crave lighter foods that'll help you to feel more light and less heavy and dense, or your whole appetite might shift. I know my daughter said that she's been having an appetite for sushi a lot and so that was different, and I took it as an ascension symptom. You might be experiencing vibrational twitching. It's those kind of body pulses, like when you twitch or like you're trying to go to sleep and you might like jump or like have this like energy shock all of a sudden. That's an ascension symptom. If you're like me, you might have had some sleep disruption earlier this week where it was like waking up at 3 a.m. Or between the hours of 3 to 5 a.m. If you're just waking up for no reason and you just feel up and wired, that is a physical ascension symptom as well. And some emotional ascension symptoms may show up for you as sudden waves of grief, sadness, or weeping. This one happened to me. I was just like preparing some food and playing music in the background, and I was listening to Angie Stone's song Black Brother. I love you, there is no one above you. That. I just started crying, and it wasn't just like a little tear or two. It was like actually kind of weeping, and I wouldn't go as far as to say I was bawling, but it was a pretty good emotional release that came suddenly and unexpectedly, and I was like, why am I crying right now? But I just let it pass. I just thought it was a very beautiful tribute to my Black brothers, that's all. And then there's mood swings without any real cause. It's like You just might feel this strong shift in your mood, you know, and you might feel a need for solitude or even nature. I've been having the urge to go to this lake that is nearby, and I just find that to be so peaceful, to sit by the lake and enjoy the ducks and the geese, and seeing that beautiful water just flowing and the trees surrounding it, you know. Okay, so those are the more emotional ascension symptoms, and then there are some mental and spiritual ascension symptoms as well, like the time distortions that I was talking about, and feeling like you're outside of time, feeling of disconnect from old routines. You know, these days have felt so out of whack. I don't have a daily routine at this point. It's just being in flow. Lastly, your inner world might be crystal clear, but there might be confusion and chaos in your outer world. Sometimes it's so difficult for me to put into words what my inner world is truly like, what it truly feels like to experience 5D in my shoes. And that's okay. You know, I can see all kinds of things that are going on in the world, but you know, it's not meant for me to over explain or to force others into the state of being that I have achieved. So there's nothing I can do about it, but yet and still that's kind of one of the symptoms that can happen spiritually through the ascension process. And I just want to leave you with what to do if you identified with any of what I was saying today. If you feel like you have had an ascension or an energy shift or a reality shift ever since the solar eclipse on the 21st. So here's some tips. You can hydrate intentionally. Imagine I have a cup full of water and an empty cup. You want to pour that water back and forth between those two cups, and that's going to charge the water. That's going to activate the water, so it goes from dead water that had been sitting all day, maybe in a water jug or water bottle, and it's going to infuse it with oxygen and movement. And then when you drink it, it will really quench your thirst. All right, because I know one of the other symptoms is having like this unquenchable dryness in your mouth or dry throat. All right, and so charge your water first and you'll be good. I have my grounding mat and I'm going to be grounding daily. You too need to ground every day, whether you go out and put your bare feet on the ground or you order your own grounding mat. I am not an affiliate of the company that I used, but you can easily just Google it and find a grounding mat to order. Make sure that you slow down. If you think that you should be going, then you might just be still stuck in 3D, and you don't have to even do as much scrolling. You can just get some relaxed time in, take a bath. I like playing those 432 hertz or 528 hertz frequency tone. You can actually search that on YouTube and just let that ride. Those YouTube videos go on for hours, and it is something that will be absorbed by your body. These ears, that sound will go in and it'll be inside of you, and it will positively affect your cells, which are 75% water, and it will give you a cymatic experience for healing. Okay, so that's all I got for today. That's my good word. Thank you so much for watching. All right, until next time, peace. Love you guys.